And now, broadcasting from deep behind enemy lines in the occupied territory of the Socialist Republic of California, your host, former California State Assemblyman and Governor candidate, Tim Donnelly.
Well, here we are at our second live remote. We are in the Movica Theater, Movica 14 in Thousand Oaks, California, and we are at what will be in a couple hours the screening of Trace Amounts. And it's very significant given that yesterday a Florida congressman took to the floor of the House of Representatives and exposed the fact that there is corruption deep within the CDC, corruption that extends all the way to an individual's, well, it affects every parent. You think you're giving your kid a vaccine that's safe, and you find out that the government knew that these vaccines were dangerous, and not only did it know it, but they intentionally buried the evidence, they destroyed the evidence, and you have potentially hundreds of thousands of children around the country that could have debilitating, life-threatening, or life-altering side effects from a vaccination that everybody thinks is safe. And now you pair that with what's going on in California with SB 277, where the government, where Jerry Brown has literally mandated every single school-age child will have these vaccines or kicked out of school. Game, set, match. And that means you're denying kids their right to a public education setting. And what I mean by that is it could be a private school that you're paying for. And your kid doesn't get to go to school because you didn't accept every single solitary vaccine because you had concerns about some of them. You might have only opted out of one booster shot. You might have only opted out of one vaccination that you consider to be unnecessary or unsafe. And instead of you getting to make that decision, the government does, now that SB 277 has become law. And so we're here, and there's going to be a packed house tonight. It's a sold-out event, watching the documentary, groundbreaking documentary, Trace Amounts, which has now been confirmed. The information that is in this movie has now been confirmed by the government, by an elected representative, Bill Posey of Florida, who gave an epic 5-minute speech yesterday. And in that speech, he named names, and he called out the CDC and said the CDC has buried evidence. They have intentionally destroyed evidence. They shredded documents because they did not want anyone to know that the results of a scientific study that showed a link between vaccines and major life-altering side effects. And this investigation is just at the very beginning stages. I'm sure we'll be hearing a lot more when the CDC whistleblower himself is actually convened and brought before a Senate panel in order to make certain that all of the evidence sees the light of day. This is shocking for people that trusted the government. And I think a lot of people do. But now we know. And so when you look at the timing and you look at the fact that SB 277 has now become law and will literally affect every school-age child in a state of 39 million people, the stakes couldn't be higher. And so the effort to overturn this bill, the referendum, becomes even more important and will play a critical role in potentially changing the minds of an awful lot of Californians now that this evidence is out there. Because, one thing that parents want, they want their kids to be safe. And so that's why we're here at a crowded theater. If you can hear noise, it's because we are live remote. It's our second live remote. And we have people coming up to the table, and if you're in the Thousand Oaks or anywhere in the greater Los Angeles area, you are welcome to come by the theater. You can sign the petition. We've had a number of people already come by and sign as we were setting up, and we're going to have a packed house tonight, and we're going to be talking to some very interesting people, including the producers of Trace Amounts. That's Eric Gladden and his partner Shiloh Levine, as well as Nation of Islam minister Tony Muhammad, who is the son of Louis Farrakhan, and also an attorney named William Feathery, all of whom are coming at this issue from different angles. But something has just struck a nerve in the American public, and also right here in California. We're seeing a movement of people that have finally said, we're done. We're not going to take any more. You're not coming after our children. If I'm going to make a choice, then I'm making that choice. If there's a choice to be had, because there is a risk, we know there's a risk. The government tried to hide the risk. It tried to pretend it didn't exist, but there is a risk. And you know what? Now, we the people, we the parents, are ultimately going to make that decision. So I want to make sure that you know where we are. We are doing our second live remote. We're at the Movica Theater in Thousand Oaks, right off the 101 freeway at the Lynn Road exit. If you want to come out and park, come in, sign the petition to basically put this question before the voters, you're welcome to do so, because the Tim Donnelly Show is broadcasting live from this location, and then it will be followed by a screening of the movie Trace Amounts. And I can't think of anything more important we could be doing on the day after the groundbreaking video exposing the CDC corruption. Hey, it is now out there, and it cannot be denied, and it certainly will be interesting to see whether the media decides to cover this issue or cover it up the way they have with the whole Planned Parenthood scandal and a whole lot of other things. And there's some explosive new evidence in the Planned Parenthood scandal. We'll get into that. And we also have a number of great guests coming up. We're going to have people stopping by our table, our production booth here. We're in the lobby of a theater, of a movie theater. I'm here with the Noskinator and hundreds of people that are just cruising through, going to see movies and signing the petitions. And if you want to be one of them, come on out. We are in Thousand Oaks at the Movica 14 theaters here. It is it's a great place. Plenty of parking, plenty to do, and if you're coming to the screening and you want to come early, come on by and say hello. We'd love to meet you, and we will be broadcasting here, so you're going to hear a little bit of background noise, but we'll try to speak up and compensate for that, because we want you to hear what we're saying, and we want everyone to understand the importance of why we're here, which is we're here to give you a voice, to stand up for parents' rights, and to let people know the truth about this law that forces every kid, school-age kid in the state of California, to accept every single vaccine. They miss one booster shot, they're kicked out of school and denied a public education. And I think that's wrong. A lot of people think that's wrong. And so we are here to do a live screening of a movie that will educate people as to the risks, which the government tried to deny. But as of yesterday, they can't do that anymore. Anyway, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back with the Tim Donnelly Show after these messages.
Defending the fundamental freedom of parents to make informed decisions for their own children is a basic human right that should never be infringed. But it was. California's SB 277 denies children access to education and takes away a parent's right to choose. You don't have to be a parent to help, but only you can make a difference. Let's exercise the people's veto and overturn SB 277. To volunteer or donate, go to SB277referendum.com. That's SB277referendum.com. Do it now. Paid for by SB 277 Referendum Committee, FPPC ID number 1378398.
So we are live on our second live remote Tim Donnelly show here in Thousand Oaks, California. Yeah, I know we're a long way from many of you, but you know what? We have friends all over the state, and if you are someone who is thinking of stopping by the live remote broadcast, come on in. We're in the Movica 14 theaters in Thousand Oaks, California. We are here for a screening of the movie Trace Amounts. And we are also collecting signatures. It's it's not a drive-by signature gathering. I'm sure we'll do one of those or many of those, but we have a lot of people who are coming out to the movies. They're coming out with their families, and they're finding out for the first time about SB 277. And of course, if you're a listener of the Tim Donnelly Show, you are no stranger to that bill. But I want to get into a little bit of the other news. There's some crazy things going on out of New Hampshire. The University of New Hampshire decided to produce a guide for language in the postmodern culture, and their goal was to offend no one. And in the pursuit of offending no one, they offended everyone. Can you imagine at an American university producing a document, publishing it on a taxpayer-paid website that says that the use of the word American can be considered offensive, and you should instead use terms like U.S. citizen or resident of the United States, or that terms such as rich are offensive, and you should call people having a great deal or having accumulated a good deal of wealth or something along really strange language. The one that people who are obese, you can't call them obese anymore. Certainly can't call them fat. You have to call them I forget. It's so bizarre, the language, to be that politically correct that I can't even get myself to say it. You can't call people lazy, even when they are, because that's offensive. Well, I find being a lazy offensive. So why wouldn't I just want to say that? This political correctness is corrupting our culture. But the one that I thought was really the pinnacle was that while the headlines are filled with people who are chopping off people's heads, who are murdering people in the name of Allah, you can't call people Islamic or Muslim. You have to call them adherents to the religion of peace. Yes, I just said that. The University of New Hampshire language guide in the postmodern culture says that it's offensive to call people Islamic or Muslim, and that you must call them adherents to the religion of peace. Meanwhile, back in California, I have to admit, I'm really shocked this didn't come out of California. I mean, most really, really boneheaded ideas are hatched here and birthed here. And but no, it came from the live free or die state. So the president of the university was outraged because a number of state representatives are saying, we will remember this. This is the kind of garbage you're going to produce at the University of New Hampshire. We'll remember that when budget time comes around. And he made the representative made the comment, what are we, the live free or I don't know. What can you say? Live free or die? What are we, the live free or be okay state? No. Living free, being a free American, being an individual who refuses to allow the government to control them, that's something deeply ingrained in the American spirit. It's something deeply ingrained in the American psyche. I can tell you right now that the only thing they did with this postmodern language guide is offend every thinking American, because when you can't call things strictly what they are, then what's the point? If you can't think free, how can you ever live free? Go figure. A university in the United States of America would actually say that the term American is offensive. I don't know what to do with that. But I do know that here in the state of California, we've got exciting news because we're organizing up and down the state. Yes, you're going to hear a lot about SB 277 and the effort to overturn this law. For me, you already have, but you're going to hear more because this is one of those efforts that's bringing together people of all faiths, people from every walk of life. We've got Republicans, Democrats, we've got independents, we've got libertarians. As a matter of fact, we had the chairman of the Libertarian Party on last week who said that his party is proud to join this effort, proud to endorse it. We have other organizations that are in talks with us right now. There is a movement afoot to defend freedom starting in the state of California, and I'm hoping that it's something that is spread across the country because I know we have listeners in many other states, and we want you to know that we're on the front lines and that we will never give up this fight, because what's at stake is whether or not we're going to have more control over our children than the state does. That's really the question. It's not as much about the vaccines and whether they're safe. We know that there are a certain amount of risks, and some of us have chosen to take those risks, but it's much more about a parent's right to make that medical decision, which has been infringed by the state of California. Jerry Moonbeam Brown. I mean, think about this. Jerry Moonbeam Brown. Here's a guy that couldn't get the infrastructure of our state right, couldn't figure out that we needed to build dams so that we would be able to actually have enough natural resources. The most critical natural resource to human beings is water. It's as if he lives in a fantasy land and wants to operate the state as if there's 20 million people here instead of almost 40 million. The freeways are falling apart. He builds this boondoggle, this train to nowhere, with money we don't have, stealing people's land to do it, and he still has time to sign a bill. And by the way, he signed it lightning fast. I mean, it made it through the Senate, made it through the Assembly, then went back to the Senate for what's a process to work out any kinks within within the bill, a conference between the two houses, and literally it was on his desk the next morning. He signed it within minutes, and yet he hasn't done anything about building the dams that we desperately need to capture all of the runoff from what could be one of the most epic years that we have in terms of rainfall. It's supposed to be a record El Nino. Well, you wouldn't know it from the actions of the governor who never misses a chance to exploit a crisis, seize control, and give the government more power over your life. You know, last time I checked, the government was supposed to protect our inalienable rights, that of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And every time you turn around, they're infringing them. They're encroaching on our personal freedom and our liberty. You know what? We're going to be right back after this break. Our live remote, Thousand Oaks. Stay tuned.
If you've been listening long to the Tim Donnelly Show, you know that we talk constantly about defending freedom and about defending our natural inalienable rights. The Firearms Policy Coalition is a partner of the Tim Donnelly Show. But more than that, they're on the front lines every day in Sacramento and all across the state, in the courts, defending your Second Amendment right. That is a natural right that the government merely acknowledged in the Second Amendment. If you value your freedom, then you need to join Firearms Policy Coalition. Become a member. I'm a member, and I'm happy to support an organization that is doing such an incredible job. Go to joinfpc.org. The Tim Donnelly Show sent you. Or go to timdonnellyshow.com and click on the FPC link to make it easy. But whatever you do, join today. FPC.org.
Last thing I remember, I was running for the door. I had to find a passage back to the place I was before. Relax at the night, man. We are programmed to receive. You can check out anytime you like, but you can never leave.
We are live in Thousand Oaks, California. This is our second live remote for the Tim Donnelly Show. And, you know, here we are, minding our own business, sitting here in the lobby of a movie theater, the Movica 14 Theater. And lo and behold, a friend of mine walks up to the table who I haven't seen in a long time, Tony Doltz. Tony, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you. I'm glad to be here, Governor.
Well, yeah, I appreciate that. I didn't quite make it to governor, but I am continuing the fight. And you and I met a long way from here at the border.
Exactly. It was April 1st, 2005.
I think that sounds about right, in somewhere in Arizona.
Right.
Maybe
So-
Tombstone or something.
Yes. And
So what brings you out?
well, first of all, I came because I heard you were going to be here and that you were going to have some petitions to sign.
Yes, that is true.
Right. So, I don't know, in my circle of friends, we are parents with children in public school, and we believe that our children are our children, and we have a right to guide their education and also their health decisions. And we're not going to stand for the imposition of vaccines. We are going to.
You want to
opt-
make the choice yourself.
I want to make the choice. Yes, exactly.
So you're not necessarily anti-vaccine.
No.
You're pro-choice, though.
Right. If any parent wants to vaccinate their children, that's okay with me. But we retain the right to make that decision over our children.
And so when Jerry Brown signed this bill, were you as shocked as many parents at how fast this went through, given how much opposition there was?
The governor is very radical, so it didn't take me completely by surprise, but I didn't think even a radical governor like Jerry Brown would go that far, really.
Yeah, and look, the whole country is watching.
Yes.
Did you happen to see the video yesterday on C-SPAN? There was a Florida congressman, Bill Posey, gave a 5-minute speech. I guess when you're in the House, you get to give 5-minute speeches on anything, even if they're not discussing it in the House. They don't do that in the Assembly, by the way. Here in California, you have to stay on topic or they come and turn off your microphone. But what was interesting is he talked about a CDC whistleblower who had brought him documents that there was a study done, and that one vaccine in particular has lifelong, life-altering side effects for some children and links to side effects that would shock most Americans. And the CDC themselves destroyed the evidence, destroyed the study, shredded the documents, and hid the results from the American people. And here, at the very moment that Governor Jerry Brown is about to, well, it already has signed a law that would mandate that very vaccine for every single school-age child in the state of California, or you're basically kicked out of school or denied any public setting of education, whether it's a public school, private school, daycare, or charter school. You're not allowed now in the public setting if you don't comply.
So, Tim, under the California Constitution, we have the right to a free public education. But this issue...
You pesky Minutemen type, you know your rights. And by the way, you're an immigrant too, aren't you?
Oh, absolutely.
So you're a Minuteman immigrant. Well,
yes.
That ought to put the lie to this whole myth that anyone who wants to protect the sovereignty of our border and our immigration process is anti-immigrant. But you know your rights. That makes you dangerous to the government. You realize that?
Yes, but I'm going to stand my ground. It doesn't make any difference to me. Yeah?
Now, I want to ask you about you said a number of your friends feel the same way.
Yes.
Now, are they all conservative? I know you're very conservative, but are they all conservative, or do they come from different backgrounds, different political
backgrounds? This is an issue that crosses the political spectrum. I can tell you this. Before I moved to Thousand Oaks, I lived in Santa Monica. And Santa Monica is...
You ran for office in Santa Monica.
Yes, I did.
And you did pretty well.
I did extremely well. Extremely well. In Santa Monica, the constituency there is very liberal. Yet many of my neighbors, I would say most of them, had opted their children out of school. I mean, over the vaccination. So the sentiment is the same here in Thousand Oaks. I don't think it matters. It's just an issue about parental rights and having and being able to decide over the health issues of our children.
Well, you know, it is kind of funny. Those who are more educated tend to have a higher opt-out rate because they've actually alerted themselves to the dangers and the potential side effects, which the government likes to minimize. The government likes to pretend that these vaccines are all safe. And look, vaccines have played an important role in public health. But some of the vaccines have caused children to have life-altering, debilitating side effects and reactions and injuries for the rest of their lives or death. As a matter of fact, in the speech yesterday by Congressman Bill Posey, he starts out his speech by saying, hey, I'm pro-vaccination. But then he says, but I'm really troubled that there's a government program for vaccine-injured children. They paid out $3.18 billion, that's billion with a B, dollars since its inception, and yet they continue to tell us all these things are safe. Well, if they're so safe, and the maximum payout is only $250,000, that's a lot of injured children or dead children. I mean, this is not something that the government can ignore now. That this cat is out of the bag, and I'm curious whether or not that's going to create a whole new energy within California communities where people say, you know what, that's it, I'm done, I'm going to go get involved.
Yes.
And because you came all the way here to sign a petition,
yes,
and hopefully you're going to take a few back and get your friends to sign them.
Absolutely. But so, Tim, what is the harm? Let's say you're a parent and you believe in vaccinating your children. So if you do that, your children are protected. What is the harm then of another family opting out of the vaccinations when your children are protected? Who's been harmed here?
Well, see, there's all these theories floating around. One of them is that the unvaccinated, and the unvaccinated is somewhere around 2.5% of the population. It's infinitesimal.
Yes.
But unvaccinated could mean that you only opt out of a single or a few vaccines.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for instance, whooping cough. Mm-hmm. Whooping cough is completely ineffective. Mm-hmm. Most of the people who transmit it have been vaccinated. Mm-hmm. There's no point in shooting your kid up with that.
Yes.
Some parents are concerned about the speed at which the vaccinations take place, the courses. I've got up on my Facebook page, I've got a chart. When in 1983, when I was a high school junior, there were about 8 vaccinations. Now there's 69 from 0 to age 18. That's incredible. And these cocktails can have really devastating effects on one's health and cause all kinds of other issues. So the bottom line, to go back to your point, is the government. This is a lot more about control than it is about public health.
Yes.
Because SB 277 is not going to prevent the next Disneyland outbreak because it only affects schools. Mm-hmm. So your child could go to Disneyland if they're not vaccinated, and a foreign child could come in, or a foreign adult could come in.
Yeah.
145,000 deaths from measles last year around the world, 0 in the United States since 2003.
Yes.
But somebody reintroduced measles into the U.S. That's what the CDC said. But the politicians went and targeted this minority that's different, that doesn't comply with their intimidation and their threats. So they have used threats of intimidation and coercion by throwing your kids out of school and denying them a constitutional right to a free and public education, which is right in our Constitution. And that's their answer.
Yes.
And then you find out there's money involved.
Exactly. Tim, what role does political contributions from pharmaceutical companies play in this? Paint me skeptical.
Tony Doltz.
Yes.
Tony Doltz. You are, and you're now on the school board in Conejo Valley.
No, I am not.
Or you're running.
Yes, I am.
All right. Well, definitely. Hey, this is your guy here. If this is your issue, this is your guy, because he cares about your kids, and he cares about all. You know what's interesting? You care about all the kids,
Absolutely. Yeah.
including those who might be different, who might not want to be vaccinated, whose parents might have beliefs, whether it's religious, whether it's simply concerns over not wanting one of their kids to be the first victim so they can then get a medical exemption. There's a conundrum, if I ever heard one. But back to the money. The money is real simple. If you're a pharmaceutical company and you've got a product that the government is going to mandate everybody
Exactly.
buy, number
Make it
one,
mandatory,
you're
yeah.
going to charge a fortune for it
Yes.
to the government.
Yes.
Number two, the government protects you from any liability. So if you harm my kid, I can't sue you. That's wrong.
And if you're a
And that's
pharmaceutical
immoral.
company, you're going to show your gratitude to those who support you.
You're going to buy
Exactly.
yourself a bunch of politicians.
Yeah.
And I am sure that has played a role, Tony. I don't know the extent to which it has, because, as you know, when I ran for office, my money came from people like yourself who would give me $100 or $200 or what have you. I did have some supporters in industries. I don't remember if any pharmaceutical companies ever donated to me, but after my fight on AB 2109 to protect parents' rights, I'm sure they wouldn't have. But money is the mother's milk of politics, and but we've got to take a quick break. As a matter of fact, we got to pay some bills, so we got to take a profit center time out, and then we will be right back here with our live broadcast in Thousand Oaks, California. Come on out and see us. Hey, if you find yourself in my hometown of Twin Peaks, don't leave without stopping by the Grill at the Antlers Inn. It's right in the heart of Twin Peaks. They serve dinner every night. They're right there at Highway 189 and Bear Springs Road. They have the best steaks, the best sushi, No matter what you have, make sure you call ahead for a reservation. 909-336-2600. 909-336-2600. And tell them Tim Donnelly sent you.
California, then we fell into the shining sea. The weight that drags your heart down, well, that's what took me where I need to be. We just here.
Hey, welcome back to the Tim Donnelly Show. We broadcast 3 to 6 p.m. every day. Every weekday, actually, on the Radio Free California Network, and I am here with the Noskinator. Can you hear? Can you say hello?
Oh, I'm here, and I can hear.
She was ready to bite my head off earlier because we had to start the show on a cell phone, because that's just what happens when you go to live remote. You never know what's going to happen. But you know what? We are excited to be here. We're in Thousand Oaks. We're at the Movica 14 Theater. We're right in the lobby. So if you want to come out and say hello, you want to get a picture, we just had my friend Tony Doltz, who stopped by. He lives nearby. He's politically active, excited about what we're doing. This is a great way. Somebody's just walking by saying hi, and this is a great place to reconnect. And bottom line is that if you come out, you can sign the petition, you can find out what's going on. If you have got tickets to the screening of Trace Amounts, come on out early. Heck, there's a Red Robin next door. You can get yourself a cheeseburger and stop by and say hello. So is it just me, or is it just cool broadcasting out of a movie theater lobby?
Well, now that we're here and everything's going great, no, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. She wasn't smiling for a long time. There was a lot of tension and stress, but
Just a little bit of stress.
yeah, but
It's all right, no big deal.
But we've got Sean McNeil back in the Radio Free California Network studios, taking care of business and making it possible that we can communicate and reach out to you. And look, we're living in exciting times. We're living in times when you, the citizen, can affect your government. And I've never seen anything like the movement that is forming right now around this forced vaccination bill that has become law, SB 277. And I know we're going to maybe belabor the point on this particular topic today, but you can't say enough about the safety of our children, because that's the bottom line. And Tony said it. A parent should have more rights than the state. And a parent should be the one who makes the decisions, not the state. And when the state decides it wants to force and intimidate and coerce a parent into injecting their child with something that they don't believe is safe, and now we have a video from a congressman who testified and gave a speech on the floor of the House yesterday that the government was hiding information. They were hiding the test results. They shredded them. They destroyed them because they didn't want anyone to know that it's not safe for every kid. That some kids have reactions that alter their lives for the rest of their lives. So this is just the beginning. This is not, this fight is far from a decided issue. And there are tens of thousands of Californians who are getting more and more involved on a daily basis in deciding that they've had enough. I mean, you know, it's crazy. You know how many businesses have left California, right?
Oh, plenty.
Right. Well, this is giving individuals a reason to leave.
Yeah, another reason to leave, if there weren't enough reasons already.
Right, and most of the people who are going to leave are high net worth. They're people who pay a large number of their income in taxes. They're people who value personal freedom. They're responsible citizens. And now, because the government wants to make everyone comply, one size fits all, you're going to have a whole new group of people leaving if we don't get this job done. But I am confident in the California people. I am confident when I see Republicans and Democrats coming together when I see independents, libertarians, Green Party, Peace and Freedom Party, when I see people on the far right and the far left who are saying, you know what, the government has no right to force me to do something to my child or to deny my child and handicap my child and deny them a free and public education, which is guaranteed in the California Constitution. So, we are in Thousand Oaks. If you want to come out and sign the petition, by the way, we've got a table set up right out front, in front of the theater. Just stop by there, sign it. There's all kinds of amazing people there who will talk to you, will give you information, who will let you sign it, make sure you do it correctly so your signature counts. And if you want to get some petitions, if you've been trained or you have watched the training video, we've got a procedure for that. We would like to make sure that you can go out and get your family and friends to stand up for parents' rights. This is about restoring religious and parental rights. It is about making sure that the government doesn't discriminate against people and drive them out of school simply because of their beliefs and because of their concerns. You know, a lot of people think the personal belief exemption is just an excuse to not vaccinate your kids. No, it's a parent saying, look, I've done the research and I don't want my oldest kid to be the first victim so that I can then get a medical exemption for the rest of them. That doesn't work for me. I don't want my kid to be injured by something that I believe he can do without. And that's the bottom line. Anyway, stop by. Come on out. We're here in Thousand Oaks at the Movica 14 Theater, and we'll be here all day. Talk to you later. Hey, if you like shooting as much as I do, you've probably been to a lot of ranges. Unless you visited Burro Canyon Shooting Park, you've never seen anything like it. On the way there, you'll find yourself taking pictures as you traverse the majestic Azusa Canyon and wind your way up into the Angeles National Forest. With over 600 acres, including 19 private ranges, there's something for everyone. There's rifle and pistol ranges for beginners, right up to advanced shooters. And there's plenty of spaces to shoot sporting clay. You can make a family day of it, or you can bring a group for team building exercises. Bring a picnic lunch. On the weekends, they provide lunch. And don't worry, they always have ammo in case you forget yours or run out. One thing I can guarantee is that once you visited my friends at Burro Canyon Shooting Park, you'll be hooked and you'll keep coming back. BurroCanyon.com is their website, or call them at 626-910-1344, 626-910-1344. Welcome back to the Radio Free California Network. I am your host, former California State Assemblyman and gubernatorial candidate. And we are broadcasting live. This is our second live remote. We are in the lobby of the Movica 14 theaters in, of all places, Thousand Oaks. And who'd have thought? But there's Tim Donnelly Show listeners and Tim Donnelly fans. And we have a friend who came up to the table. And tell us your name.
Jennifer McCarthy.
Jennifer, and your friend who's a lot shyer.
Debbie Harden.
Debbie.
Harden, sorry.
And you were saying to me that you actually voted for me for governor.
Yes, I certainly did.
Well, thank you for that. And I was asking, well, how did you find out about me?
Well, I'm pretty politically in tune. I follow politics a lot. I look for the people who believe that citizens should make their own decisions for themselves. And that was something that I knew you stood for. And that's why I always supported you.
You know, it's interesting. And first of all, thank you for your support. But it's interesting because we're in a time right now where I think we're seeing a resurgence of that. We're seeing Bernie Sanders on the left making incredible gains against Hillary Clinton, who, in my opinion, Hillary Clinton and Jeb Bush ought to get together and form their own party because they're political establishment and they've been bought off by different sides, but they're basically the same. But then you've got Donald Trump, who offends everybody. At least he's fair. He offends everybody. But we're Americans. We can take that. We want somebody that'll speak the truth and fight for us. So if you're on the left and you're a socialist and you want higher taxes and you want the government more involved in your life, you've got a choice right now. And I've never seen the country, so you could call it polarized, but that's not the right word. It's the people who are polarized against the politicians. And the opportunity lies in being somebody who will stand up for individual liberty, who will defend the Constitution. And I noticed in your comments, you didn't say I was a Republican, you didn't say I was a Democrat, you didn't say any of that. You said that I was willing to fight for the rights of the people. And see, that's something fundamentally American that's deep in our souls, I think. That, and this bill, SB 277, which follows on the heels of AB 2109, which I did pick up the fight on that. But you know how I found out about that bill? I was filibustering. But they made me do it a 5-minute speech at a time, and I spoke on 125 bills in 5 days because they were trying to pass 550 new laws at the end of the session in August of 2012. And it was so bad that all the politicians hated me by the end because they wanted to go golfing, they wanted to go out partying together, and and I wanted to stop every bill I could. Oh, am I not speaking into that right? The Noskinator is moving my microphone. I'm sorry, I had a cheeseburger there a minute ago, okay? But it was an interesting experience because the LA Times did a front page story on me when I filibustered. And I read the comments, and usually the comments on me in the LA Times, because I tend to be very conservative, are very negative. And in this case, I was being demonized and criticized by politicians for standing up for the people and demanding to know what was in the bills. And there were all kinds of people who said, hey, I'm a liberal, I'm a Democrat, and I agree with this guy. I don't think we need so many laws. And certainly we're seeing people come together right now in an unprecedented movement because the government has now become a threat to the parental relationship, to being a parent, be able to determine the health of your child for yourself, be able to make the decision of what's right for your child. Instead of one size fits all, the government's going to force every single child to be vaccinated. And yesterday we just found out that not some of us didn't just find out, but the public just found out that the government was hiding some evidence of the side effects of some of these vaccines. They don't allow you to sue the manufacturer. They shield the manufacturer from any kind of... I got to let you guys talk because you're nodding, and I realize that's not going out over air, is it? I'm doing a terrible job here.
We agree with you.
Yeah, well, but the audience is going, this is radio. Is that all we're going to hear is Donnelly? What about the people who came to see him? So anyway, I'm really glad to meet you. I'm glad you came over. And in terms of this bill, is this something that your friends are aware of? Is this something you've heard from a lot of people?
Yes, I have noticed that a lot of people that I know have gotten involved, mainly because of Facebook, which I think this is one of the reasons for Facebook is that we can...
I've been trying to Facebook pictures from here, by the way, just so you know, and my phone tells me I don't exist on Facebook right now.
Oh, so, I just saw
I know.
you on Facebook.
I see the look on your face. I'm feeling the same way, and I'm going, I know I exist. Do I exist?
I just saw you on Facebook before I came in here, so I know you exist on Facebook. But I'm finding that people are very interested in this, but shockingly on sides that I never would have expected, and people that I thought completely agreed with small government and us keeping ourselves, keeping the rights for ourselves, who are saying to me, "Oh no, everybody should be vaccinated," and don't seem to see that it's
and you know what
not that it's a parent's right to make the decision.
But you know what my question for them is? So you trust the government? Really? You trust the government to make that choice?
No.
Look, I vaccinated my children. My wife had 2 boys when I met her, so they had already been vaccinated. So I wasn't able to make that choice. But our first son together, oh my gosh, I'm a first-time dad. So I'm reading everything. I'm researching everything. And I start reading about vaccines, and I start reading about the side effects. I'm reading the fine print, and it's shocking. And it's like my kid could shed for X number of days, and he could get irritable and start acting crazy, and you don't know what kind of neurological effect it's going to have, and you don't know if it's going to be permanent or temporary. I couldn't sleep, but I made that decision. I weighed based on what I knew, and I said, okay. Well, I'm going to tell you something right now. Just from my research having to do with this bill and the bill before it, there are definitely vaccines I would opt out of. And I would have serious concerns about anything the government tells me. I don't trust them anyway. But when we find out they've been hiding the evidence of the side effects, and that's the bottom line. If anybody says anything about side effects, all of a sudden they call you crazy and you're some kind of kook. No. We had a congressman yesterday bring the evidence to the floor of the House. Bill Posey. Yeah, you got to listen to the show.
I'm sorry.
That's all right.
I will from
It's
now
on yesterday's previous show. You go there and it's a YouTube. And we played it right at the beginning of the show. You can hear his 5-minute speech, and it is astonishing. Because he starts out by saying, hey, I'm pro-vaccine. He said, but I'm really disturbed by the fact that the government program to compensate people for vaccine-injured children only pays out a max payout of $250,000, but they've paid out over $3 billion with a B dollars in awards to injured children or parents whose child has died. Well, hello. We'd like to see the evidence. We'd like to know what risk we're taking, and then as informed adults, we will consent or not consent. That's what we do with every other medical decision. But right now they want to intimidate you, take away your kid's right to a free and public education, which California is a constitutional right. But that's force and intimidation. That isn't what our government's supposed to be doing. Our government's supposed to be protecting our rights, not infringing them, not putting our kids in jeopardy. If we want to make that decision for ourselves, we'll live with the consequences. That's different. But we need to know the information. And I think that's something that we're starting to see a huge movement developing, and it isn't about vaccines. This is about accountability. This is about a parent's right to make that decision, and it is about personal liberty and freedom. And it's about kicking the government in the you-know-what and telling them, you know what, get the heck out of my house. This is my decision. Sorry, I don't have my buttons here to mute myself when I want to cuss. But the Noskinator is sitting right next to me and has an eye on me, and we've got 2 lovely ladies who have come here. By the way, go on the Facebook page because I'm going to post a selfie I just took. We are here in the Movica 14 Theater in Thousand Oaks. Oh, now we're getting another one. I'm going to smile as the Noskinator takes a picture. I'm sure I wasn't flashing my pearly whites at that time. But hey, if you want to come out and say hello, come out and take a picture with us, sign the petition, whatever you do, and get your friends to come. We're making it easy. And if you want to circulate it, we can connect you so that you can go get your family and friends and you can be part of a powerful new movement defending personal liberty starting right here in California. And we hope to spread this across the country soon. Anyway, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back after these short messages. Defending the fundamental freedom of parents to make informed decisions for their own children is a basic human right that should never be infringed. But it was. California's SB 277 denies children access to education and takes away a parent's right to choose. You don't have to be a parent to help, but only you can make a difference. Let's exercise the people's veto and overturn SB 277. To volunteer or donate, go to SB277referendum.com. That's SB277referendum.com. Do it now. Paid for by SB 277 Referendum Committee, FPPC ID number 1378398.
We're gonna take callers. We're gonna take callers.
It's crazy. We are live in a movie theater. We're here at the Movica 14 Theater in Thousand Oaks. You can come out and sign the SB 277 referendum. It's not a drive-by signature gathering because we're in front of the theater and you have to park and walk up. But you know what? Bring your family. Go see a movie. Unfortunately, Trace Amounts is sold out, but we will have the directors here in the 5 o'clock hour along with Minister Tony Muhammad and others who are going to give their take on this whole thing. It's really brought together an interesting group of people. But you know what was great was that we just had some ladies stop by and they were telling me after, it's funny how people tell you something when you're not on air. You know, we're off having a nice quiet conversation. And they said, you know, a bunch of my liberal friends went to hear you speak because they were like, oh my gosh, that guy's a conservative, he's a Republican, I don't know. But I went to hear the guy speak and he makes a lot of sense. And now they're willing to be involved. Who knows, maybe in some other political fight in the future, I don't know. But that was very encouraging because all we're doing is fighting for basic, natural, fundamental rights. This isn't it's not as if we're asking the government for some benefit or handout. We're asking the government to get the heck out of our lives. We're asking the government to leave our kids alone. We're saying, look, I might want to vaccinate, but my neighbor might not want to. And they might have very good reasons, even though they don't qualify for what the government calls a medical exemption because they don't have a kid who has already been injured. Well, think about that. That's like saying, we're not going to pass a speed limit because nobody's been killed in a car crash yet. That's just stupid. But I guess that's the kind of thinking that they do in the. Can you call that thinking in the California legislature?
Well, they're thinking, but I don't feel like it's the best interest of the people.
Yeah, I don't even call it thinking. I call it pandering. They pander to the worst fears. They're inspiring people to be afraid of their neighbors rather than join with their neighbors in defense of personal freedom. And you know, freedom is a risky proposition. There is a group of people, mostly in the government, in the bureaucracies, who think government is the solution to every problem, and that's why government continues to grow and grow and grow and grow. And we have these massive bureaucracies that take more and more of our tax dollars, and then we can't invest in things like roads and infrastructure, and maybe even like in a after school program like sports or music or drama or something like that really piques a kid's interest that might not be that interested in academics. I can tell you, I have boys, and if it weren't for sports, I don't know what would have happened to our living room. But you need to engage the kids. But what do? They cut these programs time and time and time again, and I don't know. It's just really encouraging. So if you're in the Thousand Oaks area, anywhere in greater Los Angeles, please come out and see us. We'll take a picture with you. You can Facebook it. I will be Facebooking some pictures. Have you put anything up on Instagram?
I haven't yet, but at our next break, I have a few pictures that I can't wait to post.
Oh, no. That doesn't sound good.
Also, if you would like to call in, our phone lines are now open.
Oh, did you? You're amazing. You know what? Call in and give the Noskinator a kudos. You deserve kudos just for putting up with me.
Thank you,
but,
Tim.
I got to tell you, she makes it look easy. She got the entire radio show set up in a matter of 15, 20 minutes. We're live on air. We are in the lobby of the Movica 14 movie theater in Thousand Oaks, and shortly after the broadcast ends, the screening of Trace Amounts will begin. Unfortunately, the tickets are sold out for that. But we're going to bring you some of that information from the movie in the 5 o'clock hour, so you won't want to miss that. Make sure you tell your friends to tune in. We'll be talking to Trace Amounts directors Eric Gladden and Shiloh Levine, as well as Nation of Islam minister Tony Farrakhan and George Feathery, who is an attorney, who is an expert on vaccines and vaccination law. And you know what? We'll answer your questions. It looks like we got a call here, so we're going to take a call live on air from the lobby of the Movica 14 movie theater. Welcome to the Tim Donnelly Show.
Hi, Tim.
How are you?
Oh, I'm pretty good. I just wanted to call in and complain about your motto of broadcasting from deep behind enemy lines in occupied territory of the Socialist Republic of California. I just think that's kind of rude. I was stationed here after my combat tour, and I love California.
I love California too.
I think it's very offensive that you would say something like that about the great state. I was forced here for my combat tour. I was stationed at Fort Irwin, and I really think it's a nice place to live. So I just would respectfully ask you to change your motto.
Well, I will respectfully decline, but I will thank you for your service and respectfully disagree. We're Americans. I have First Amendment freedom of speech. And look, for me, I'm not talking about the countryside. I think California is a beautiful place topographically. California has mountains, we have desert, we have you can go skiing and surfing in the same day. You can go up to Napa Valley, where I was just the other day at a friend of mine's vineyard, where it's absolutely stunningly gorgeous. But we have a government that is run by Marxist progressives, the likes of which want to force vaccinations on kids or kick them out of school and deny them their constitutional rights. You might want to use nicer language about that. I believe in calling it what it is, and I call it as I see it. So
that's fair.
I appreciate you listening. I appreciate you calling in, but going to have to disagree with you there.
Okay, no problem. Yeah, even Apple Valley is beautiful in its own way. It's raining out here finally, so...
Is it raining right now?
Well, you have a good day. I just wanted to relay that information. I just thought... I hear it on the radio a lot, and it just kind of... I don't know. I'm a military guy, and behind occupied territory just sounds kind of weird. I've been in a battle zone, and it's just...
I'm just talking about it politically, but thank you for the call, and I hope you keep listening.
Okay, all right, have a good day.
Oh, you got it. Hey, if you like shooting as much as I do, you've probably been to a lot of ranges. Unless you visited Burro Canyon Shooting Park, you've never seen anything like it. On the way there, you'll find yourself taking pictures as you traverse the majestic Azusa Canyon and wind your way up into the Angeles National Forest. With over 600 acres, including 19 private ranges, there's something for everyone. There's rifle and pistol ranges for beginners, right up to advanced shooters. And there's plenty of spaces to shoot sporting clay. You can make a family day of it, or you can bring a group for team building exercises. Bring a picnic lunch. On the weekends, they provide lunch. And don't worry, they always have ammo in case you forget yours or run out. One thing I can guarantee is that once you visited my friends at Burrow Canyon Shooting Park, you'll be hooked and you'll keep coming back. BurrowCanyon.com is their website, or call them at 626-910-1344. 626-910-1344.
If you guys are going to talk, you have to talk directly into the microphone.
Hey, if you are just tuning in to the Radio Free California Network, we're broadcasting live from the lobby of a movie theater. And you might say, well, what in the world are you doing there? Well, we're doing something really cool. We're getting people to sign the SB 277 referendum. And if you don't understand what that is, then you should come out, because it's a threat to parents' rights everywhere. Because once they do this, if they can force you to inject your kid with something that you don't want to because you are concerned about the side effects, what can't they do as a government? So if you're anywhere near Thousand Oaks, we are in the Movica 14 Theater, right in the lobby, and we'll take a picture with you. We'll even let you come on air but only after you have signed the petition. And I have with me two lovely ladies, Brittany and Joy, who are involved in this fight. And go ahead and lean up to the microphone, Brittany.
Hello, everybody.
Yeah. So, and by the way, if you watch the training video, Brittany is the star of that. I am just a player.
It was a good time. We had a good time.
You know, that's been viewed by over 2,000 people.
I didn't know that. I hadn't seen the numbers yet, but I'm glad people are getting involved in this cause. It's very, very important, whether you're a parent or not, grandparent. Even if you just care about children, it's important.
So what got you involved? I mean, because you're pretty deeply involved in this, you and your friend Shannon.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm a mother of two young girls who are directly affected by the SB 277 bill, and I'm pregnant with our third child, which this child would have no education rights as of right now if this continues. So it's a huge factor, and the vaccine issue has been something I've been studying for the last almost decade now. So
didn't you write a book on it?
I did. I have a book about the health crisis in America, and I do have a chapter about vaccine and vaccine injury and vaccine safety in my book, yes.
Wow. Wait, you're supposed to promote your book.
Well, my book is here. So for those of you that are going to come visit us, it's called The Silent Scandal by Brittany Cara. I'll be here. I have some copies available for signing and for purchase. So, yeah, it's a great thing to be a part of. And thank you for everything you're doing, Tim, for the referendum. It's absolutely amazing.
Well, it's not what I'm doing. It's what we're doing. Brittany is the communications director for the SB 277 referendum. And look, this thing is going everywhere. And even though the media hasn't wanted to cover us necessarily right now, I believe they will by the time we're finished, because we've got thousands of people all over the state who are working together. We've got Republicans and Democrats who have set aside their differences. They're actually getting along, and some even like each other. I don't know if that's legal in California, but it was the government and the government interference that brought these people together, and it's an exciting thing to be a part of. And you know, hey, if you are anywhere within the sound of well, I guess I can't say that because we're not on terrestrial air here, but I'm surprised at how many people have come out that were aware of this from Facebook, from listening to the show online, and from all the different groups. And Joy, what got you into this fight? This is Joy Dupuis from
Thousand Oaks.
Local gal. Here we go. And how many kids do you have?
I have one daughter who's 17, And people have asked me, how did you get involved in this when this doesn't really affect your daughter? And I said, well, I've been researching this for a really long time, since before she was born. And when this bill came up, I wanted to just jump in and get involved because I feel like it's a violation of our rights as parents. It's a violation of the Nuremberg Code, and it's a human rights violation.
Yeah, and you know, it's interesting too, because you have churches that are getting involved because it's an assault on parents' rights. You have other people who are getting involved because it's about personal liberty. So a lot of my friends who are libertarians and who just don't want the government involved in anything. And I tend to just to go along with that because I think the government does a lot more harm than good. And then you have liberal Democrats who have always been in favor of choice, who now find that the Democrat Party which rules California, had become a threat, even though they're the ones who got them elected. And so I think we haven't seen an issue like this in probably many decades in California that brought this many people together.
Absolutely. I've actually never seen, I was very much involved in the GMO movement for GMO labeling, and that's, been a fight for the last several years as well. But there's been nothing like the SB 277 fight that I've ever seen in my lifetime.
And GMO stands for genetically modified organisms.
Yes.
And it has to do with food safety.
It has to do with food safety, has to do with what they're putting in our foods that they're not telling us. And unfortunately, not to get off on the GMO side of things, but they're labeled in 64 other countries around the globe, and here in the United States you don't have the right to know what's in your food, and this actually plays into the vaccine issue a lot because most people don't understand what's in vaccines, and there actually are GMOs in vaccines as well.
I want to ask you about I'm sure you saw and heard Congressman Bill Posey yesterday took to the floor of the House and said, look, I'm pro-vaccination, which is a lot like me. I wouldn't call myself pro-vaccination. I'm pro-freedom. But I did vaccinate my kids. But he said, but I'm really disturbed by the over $3 billion has been paid out from this Vaccine Injured Compensation Fund. Right. It's like, if these things are so safe, then why are we paying out so much money? And why is there such a low cap? $250,000 for a dead kid.
Right.
I mean, this is nuts.
Right.
And then he came out with the information that shocked the world, which is the CDC, which is in charge of protecting public health on a national level, was shredding and destroying evidence of debilitating, life-altering side effects of some of the most common vaccines, like the MMR, the measles one that they made a big stink of out here. And now, even though the government has hidden the test results and destroyed the evidence, we got a governor and a government that is mandating your kid have that or they're out of school. And basically, what kind of future do they have if they can't go to school?
Right. And well, that's the thing that we're all fighting against is everyone says, well, just homeschool. But for a lot of families, homeschooling is not something that's financially available to them, especially if it's a single parent household. For them to then homeschool their children, it's
let's be
ridiculous.
Honest. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
It's terrifying.
Terrifying.
It's a terrifying thought. I relish that time when the kids go away and they're in somebody else's care and they can be crazy somewhere else and I can get some work done.
You know what? I actually homeschool my daughter.
Okay.
And
you're a very patient person.
Well, I don't actually homeschool her. She's 17 and she does an online program. And she did that for high school. I did not homeschool her before that, but it's worked out really well because you can get so much done in 3 or 4 hours, completely done for the day versus about 10 if you're in high school. By the time you spent time in school, come home and have homework. So it works for some families.
Well, and I think the issue is if you want to homeschool, you should have that right as a parent to make that choice. However, if you don't want to homeschool, it certainly shouldn't be something that's mandated by the federal government or the state government because you don't feel comfortable with a medical procedure. And that's what vaccination is. It's a medical procedure with serious and deadly side effects. And so that's where there's so many of us speaking out. Homeschooling can be great for multiple families, but for many families, it's just not feasible.
Well, and Brittany, call me crazy, but I can see into the future. And I see us back here at this table in this lobby fighting against SB 378 or 377, where the government has now decided to outlaw homeschooling in California.
Right. And that will be
Can you imagine?
The next step. It's not going to stop here. And for those listening to this broadcast today and thinking, well, I don't have young kids, this doesn't affect me, I'm pro-vaccine, whatever the case may be, there's a lot of different perspectives with this issue. However, there was an adult bill drafted in February of this year for adult mandated vaccine program. Now, they have yet to launch it fully and to really start to get that out in the media. But if you are a healthcare worker, so if you are a nurse, you're mandated now. If you are a child care worker in a daycare center or a teacher, you have to get all of your booster shots. So it's not just the kids. This is about the government control.
And the Noskinator, my producer, her mother is a nurse. My wife works in healthcare. And yesterday we had an individual on the show that was involved in healthcare, and he was injured by a vaccine. He actually was an assistant, or not an assistant, but a volunteer in a program that Dr. Pan oversaw, and he took the Tdap and wound up in bed, wound up paralyzed temporarily with stroke-like symptoms. He's getting 24-hour round-the-clock care. All because he took a vaccine his doctor said was safe.
Yep, absolutely. I saw his story, actually. He has a video that's been circulating on the internet, and it's very powerful because he was working with Pan, and he was very much pro-vaccine, and he said, I just trusted the system. And that's what most parents are doing. They're just trusting in the CDC and the APA to protect our kids. But at the end of the day, every single parent has to be in control of that.
And the most significant thing that we can arm ourselves with is information.
Absolutely.
Bottom line.
That's right. And I think it's important to remember that this bill is about a parent's right to choose for their children. It's really not about vaccination. And it's not promoting vaccination or not promoting it. It's about our right as a parent to choose what we think is best for our children after we do research.
Let me ask you this, Joy. What kind of choice are you making if the government hides the evidence of side effects in a study that it commissioned?
Absolutely. You really have to dig. You really have to look at how many shots were given, say, in 1983 versus today.
Somebody shared that, and I put it up on my Facebook page. See, I was in 11th grade in 1983, okay?
Well, I was born in 82, and I can tell you I had 8 vaccines.
I was in 11th grade, too.
Usually when I say that, there's people around that are like, wow, you're really young. Thanks a lot, Brittany.
Sorry. But no, I mean, we had less than 10 shots. We had less than 10 shots, and it was spread out. By the time we were 6 or 7, it was not. It's now my kids were scheduled to get 36 shots in their first year of life. Now, there's not one medical study anywhere that shows that those shots all mixed together at one time in a developing immune system is safe. And that's something that every parent needs to know, because we shouldn't be afraid to ask our pediatrician questions, and we shouldn't be afraid to be bullied in our pediatrician's office for just having a question about a vaccination.
I couldn't say it better myself. We've got to take a quick break, but we'll be right back on the Tim Donnelly Show, and we'll either have Brittany and Joy or somebody else. But you know what? Come on out. We are in Thousand Oaks. We're at the Movica 14 Theater. We're in the lobby. You can't miss us. Big yellow sign. Whether you're an experienced shooter or just buying your first gun, Turner's Outdoorsman has everything you need, along with a knowledgeable and friendly staff to help you find that perfect gear for your next adventure. Turner's now has 18 locations across Southern California, including a Victorville location right on Bear Valley Road. Be sure to check out the new Archery Pro shops in the Victorville, Chino Hills, and Pasadena locations. If you're not sure what you're looking for, you can browse and shop their selection at Turners.com. Be sure to check out their weekly specials and sign up to get them delivered directly to your inbox. Turners is where I turn for all my firearms and ammo needs. Remember to tell them Tim Donnelly sent you, and you'll get an additional discount. I can hear the music, so I can dance, right? You are tuned to the Radio Free California Network. And you know, we call it the Radio Free California Network for a reason. Because this is about freedom. Just like my guest, Joy, mentioned earlier, this is not about vaccines. This is about freedom. It's about a parent's right to be free to make an informed decision. And Joy, on the break, we were talking about how this has brought parties together. And I think that's been encouraging to a lot of people because we're so tired of being divided.
Absolutely.
You know, I'm madder at my party and I'm treated like a stepchild in my own party. But the only reason I haven't left is because they want me to. And I refuse to give them the satisfaction. But you were and have been for most of your life a Democrat.
For the last maybe decade, yes. And I recently signed up as an independent. So I left my party. I even called Bernie Sanders. I liked a lot of what he had to say. And I called and I spoke with his campaign, and they said no, that he was definitely pro the mandated vaccines and that the science has spoken.
Oh my gosh,
thought,
he did not. The science has spoken.
Yep, he believes the science, and
you got to call him back and say, did you hear Bill Posey has spoken? Congressman from Florida, what do you have to say to that?
I will call back and mention that to his aide.
Because we hadn't had that evidence out there before. When I don't know what it is, but when somebody in high office says the truth, then all of a sudden a whole new group of people can hear it.
Right.
Who thought you were crazy before when you were saying the exact same thing. It's kind of like when my wife will say, you know, she'll ask for my advice on something and I'll give it to her and I don't hear anything. And then some random stranger will come to the door and give her the exact same advice. She'll, did you hear what that guy, it was so amazing. And, you know, there's something to that. But I'm still really mad that my government is lying to me and abusing its power to hide evidence. Look, if there's evidence of danger, don't we have a right as Americans to know this, as human beings, to protect our own health and the health of our children? All of us know that there's a certain amount of risk in life, but we can't make an informed decision if we don't know the facts.
Well, I think this is a lot about money, too, and about how much money that Big Pharma is going to make. And it's about greed.
It's hard to argue with that, especially when the guy that pushed the bill was a doctor, was a pediatrician, and if I'm not mistaken, I remember somewhere in my research that that some doctors make money if they give a vaccination. Is that?
Well, first of all, so Dr. Pan, that was one of the co-authors of the bill, every single one of the co-authors of the bill, their campaigns received money from Big Pharma, and Dr. Pan was the largest recipient. So he got over like
$200,000.
200
from a couple different donors.
Yeah, well, they do it
I got
in
elected
amounts.
with $15,000 my first election. $200,000 is enough to
approximately.
The number I saw was like
incredible.
98,000, but then there was other numbers that were coming out, so they would do it in different, not all in one chunk. So it doesn't
Plus,
look
they funnel it through a bunch of different subsidiaries so that it's quote unquote legal bribery.
So unfortunately, our political system has been bought by the pharmaceutical companies, and this is coming out full force in this issue, and it's affecting our children and the children of this nation and future generations to come. So that's why we're all out here fighting, because if we don't stop this now, it's going to just continue to snowball and get worse.
I know. What is the problem with actually recognizing that one size does not fit all? So why should this vaccine schedule fit all children? There are going to be some children who are sensitive and susceptible. And
Joy, you sound like an American. I think that's what we're telling our government what to do, not the other way around. Hey, Tim Donnelly Show, we are going to continue from the lobby of the Movica 14 Theater. Come by. If you've been listening long to the Tim Donnelly Show, you know that we talk constantly about defending freedom and about defending our natural inalienable rights. The Firearms Policy Coalition is a partner of the Tim Donnelly Show. But more than that, they're on the front lines every day in Sacramento and all across the state, in the courts, defending your Second Amendment right. That is a natural right that the government merely acknowledged in the Second Amendment. If you value your freedom, then you need to join Firearms Policy Coalition. Become a member. I'm a member, and I'm happy to support an organization that is doing such an incredible job. Go to joinfpc.org. The Tim Donnelly Show sent you. Or go to timdonnellyshow.com and click on the FPC link to make it easy. But whatever you do, join today. FPC.org. You are listening to the Radio Free California Network, and we are broadcasting live from the lobby of the Movica 14 Theaters in Thousand Oaks, California. Come on out and say hello. We have people dropping by. They're coming on air. They're signing petitions. They're out there gathering. We have a lady in front of us. She doesn't want to come on air, but she is a star at getting signatures. And you know what? We have all these people who come on, but there's people behind the scenes that are the quiet heroes. And I want to say to you, thank you for getting out there and doing the work. She's armed with her clipboards. She's organized. She's got a pen. She's got 3 clipboards, and she is ready to go. And who walks up but Eric Gladden, the director of the movie that we're going to be seeing tonight, Trace Amounts. Eric, welcome to the show.
How's it going, Tim?
It's going great. I mean, is this crazy? Here you've got live radio in the middle of a lobby of a.
It's awesome. I love it. This is my hometown theater right here. Oh. Not my hometown, but the town I kind of live in now. So
that's awesome, and I'm looking forward to seeing your movie.
Oh, you haven't seen it?
You know what? I've been a little busy.
Yes, you have. Yes, you have.
I have, and we're going to go to the phones real quick. So we got 2 people who've been waiting for a while. So let's go ahead and get them on air. Hey, welcome to the Tim Donnelly Show.
Hi, Tim. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm just calling from the SB 277 referendum headquarters here in the Central California with the update. Have some breaking news, very important stuff. We just got our 3,000th volunteer about an hour or so ago. And this, as you know, we've gotten several more since then, but it was about an hour or 2 ago. So we finally passed 3,000. And just so people know, these people are registering with us. We're verifying who they are. So these are not, fake signups or anything like that. And I just wanted to give a shout out and thank all of these volunteers, all the coordinators. These girls, it's mostly girls, but there are some guys. But these people are just amazing. They are so unbelievable. I'm getting emails, like 24 hours a day. We just put up the new online database of where to sign. And, people are emailing us constantly. We're going to be here. We're going to be there. And if you go online and look at our database, I mean, this is how committed these people are. They are telling us we will go sit on a park bench for an hour or 2. Come and see us. They're just setting up everywhere, whether it's an hour, 3 hours, all day. They don't care. They are committed to this. And, I personally went out and did some parking lots, and lots of people came by. Mm-hmm.
Let me ask. First of all, congratulations. We've hit 3,000 volunteers gathering signatures 3, to overturn SB 277. That's a major, major mark. We've had over 2,000 people watch the video that was shot by Larry Cook that stars Brittany Cara, who is the author of Silent Scandal, by the way. I got my copy signed by the author. And so this is exciting news. How do people reach the website? How do they get involved Obviously, they know they can come here and sign the petition. They can come here and see the movie, except that it's sold out because it's so popular. You know, I guess if they came here, they'd have to see one of these Hollywood deals. Anyway, give us a website real quick.
It's www.sb277referendum.com. And that's also our name on Facebook, and it's also our name on Twitter as well.
Awesome. Thank you for that information. We're going to go to one other call here real quick, and then we're going to get back to Eric, who just walked in, who is one of the directors of this movie, Trace Amounts, that we're going to be screening here in the... it looks like we've got Keith from Los Angeles. Keith, welcome to the show.
Hi, Tim. My name's actually Scott Cooper. I don't know how they got my name messed up.
Okay.
You just mentioned Larry Cook. I did a video for Larry. I don't know if you happen to see it. I'm an ex-Merck representative. I used to work sell pharmaceuticals. And, I've been fighting vaccines since the late 70s when I was a kid. And, like most people, I grew up believing in vaccines because of what I learned in school. And I was lucky. I had a father who was, kind of alternative medicine. And he basically said, hey, don't believe everything you read. And so I started researching it. And I started reading books and everything else. And I was just shocked. Couldn't believe what I was reading. And, so that led me down this path, so I just wanted to say that in 30 years, so this is the late 70s, all right, I figured by now that, vaccines, this whole lid on vaccines would be completely blown up, and that, we wouldn't be going through this,
Well,
now we're just fighting for...
Yeah, you heard it yesterday.
Now.
Yesterday, you got a congressman who finally brought out the information to the floor of the House that what a lot of people already knew in back circles. It was going through the internet and through the activist circles. But the bottom line is, when a congressman says it, the world can't ignore it anymore. And if they do, they ignore it at their own peril. And it came at a moment when you've got a governor and a legislature that have decided that they want to force these vaccinations on every school-age child in California, or you're kicked out of school and denied a free and public education. It's not just a public education. It's really a public setting, even if it's a private education. So, this is ludicrous, but it's finally blowing up in their faces. And, Scott, I'm sure you're probably thrilled to see that.
Absolutely, because, quite frankly, this is just the beginning. If this, Congressman Posey, if his speech doesn't go anywhere, mandatory adult vaccines are next. So, they're going to start inoculating all of us, or vaccinating all of us adults, and, they're just going to be poisoning us all.
Well, Scott, thank you for calling in, and thank you for fighting the good fight. And we're gonna continue here with Eric Gladden. Eric, talk to me. What possibly could have possessed you to make this movie? Because it just doesn't strike me as the type of topic that a young man would go out and want to make a documentary about.
Yeah, unfortunately, I kind of got thrown into it by a personal experience. In fact, in Thousand Oaks, where we are right now, I owned a house and I was building my fence in my backyard back in 2004 and scratched the top of my head with a rusty nail. So I did what anyone would do. They'd go down to urgent care and get a tetanus shot.
Sure.
Went to Thousand Oaks Urgent Care, got a tetanus shot, and ended up getting extremely, extremely sick, physically, neurologically, psychologically, and so forth. Went through a very difficult process trying to figure out what happened. I was a 29-year-old healthy guy, and then all of a sudden I had major neurological symptoms. And the way mercury worked, because it was ultimately pinned down to the thimerosal in that tetanus shot. Thimerosal is a mercury-based preservative, only in the vaccine to save money. It has nothing to do with the efficacy of the vaccine.
Really?
It's only in there.
It's all about the bottom line.
It's all about the bottom line and being lazy. And once it was...
You can't say lazy anymore in America. in the University of New Hampshire, they have decided that that's one of the words you're no longer allowed to say, and you can no longer say American. And I think we said both of those on this show.
Well, Well, ultimately it was pinned down. It was a very trivial process working with doctors and trying to figure out what it was. I was healthy, now I got these neurological symptoms. What happened between point A and B? We pinned it down to the thimerosal because my symptoms were identical to mercury exposure. They kicked in identical to how mercury exposure would kick in. And once I went through a process that removed the mercury from my body and brain, all my symptoms went away. And that started the research. And once I started researching, I couldn't stop. And literally it led me down this path of quitting my career and traveling the country, interviewing every doctor and scientist that would talk to me and try to explore what's really going on.
Slow down, you go a little fast here. Every scientist and doctor that would talk to you.
Yeah.
So there are a lot that wouldn't.
Yeah, anytime there's this type of controversial issue and I'm going out trying to get to the bottom of whether our vaccine program might be causing the autism epidemic, there's a lot of people that wouldn't talk to us because they, obvious reasons. It's a very controversial subject, and there's liability at stake, there's financials at stake, and a lot of people, are scared of documentary filmmakers because sometimes words can be taken out of context and people can spin things in the film, and I had no intentions of doing that, but still, getting the on-camera interviews with some of these government organizations was pretty difficult.
I bet. I mean, because it sounds like you were on a personal journey to discover the truth about vaccines and about really more than vaccines, because tetanus shot isn't really a vaccine, is it?
Yeah, tetanus absolutely is a vaccine.
I didn't know that. I mean, I knew you were supposed to go get one.
Yeah. Influenza, a lot of people think flu shots aren't vaccines, but it's influenza vaccine. Okay. It's just like a DTaP, MMR, they're all vaccinations. They're trying to develop, an immune response and develop antibodies to protect you from the infectious disease.
Okay. I want to get a little bit more into your journey when we get back from this break, but so let's go ahead and take a break. We're live in a movie theater lobby, the Movica 14 Theater in Thousand Oaks, and we keep having wonderful people stop by with amazing stories, including Eric Gladden, Trace Amounts. Be right back after this. Whether you're an experienced shooter or just buying your first gun, Turner's Outdoorsman has everything you need, along with a knowledgeable and friendly staff to help you find that perfect gear for your next adventure. Turner's now has 18 locations across Southern California, including a Victorville location right on Bear Valley Road. Be sure to check out the new Archery Pro shops in the Victorville, Chino Hills, and Pasadena locations. If you're not sure what you're looking for, you can browse and shop their selection at turners.com. Be sure to check out their weekly specials and sign up to get them delivered directly to your inbox. Turner's is where I turn for all my firearms and ammo needs. Remember to tell them Tim Donnelly sent you, and you'll get an additional discount. Hey, we are back live, and you might hear a little bit of background noise because we're in a theater. We're in the lobby of the Movica 14 Thousand Oak Theater here in Thousand Oaks, California. We have Eric Gladden, who is the director. Are you also the producer?
Yeah.
And the producer, and probably the financier, and the driver.
Shiloh Levine was also a co-director and producer as well.
That's right. Yeah, I met Shiloh Levine, and so tell us how this all came together, because it's one thing because we understand how it was provoked with the rusty nail that basically almost killed you. It wasn't the nail that almost killed you. It was the vaccine, the tetanus shot that gave you neurological problems, and traced it to thimerosal, which basically was a shortcut, a cheap, lazy way to juice up the vaccine?
Just preserve it so bacteria doesn't grow. There's many different alternatives to it. This happens to be the cheapest, and they don't have to have ultra sterile manufacturing facilities. They can just have be, like I said, lazy earlier, just dump a bunch of thimerosal in it, not worry about bacteria growing instead of having an ultra pure manufacturing process. And they can just dump a bunch in a multi-dose vial and be lazy and cheap in their shipping and storage.
So tell me they don't still have this thimerosal being used in vaccines.
Oh, they do. In fact, it's a big misconception out there that it's been removed from all childhood vaccines. The influenza vaccines still, about 51 million doses this flu season alone contain the full 25 micrograms of mercury, which is the equivalent of, for one of these shots, you'd have to weigh 551 pounds to get one of these flu shots. These are given to pregnant women, babies, adults, old people, and so forth. So they did remove it from some of the childhood vaccines, DTaP, Hib, and hepatitis B. And then the second that was all removed, they added flu shots to pregnant women and babies to the first year of life, one every year after that. So now instead of giving it to babies who can excrete it to some degree, they're giving it to developing fetus, which has zero ability to excrete it. They're the most susceptible of all. And we know it goes right into the fetus, and the fetus will actually protect the mother from the mercury exposure. So it's absolutely catastrophic. And then in 2009, 2010, they gave pregnant women a second 25 microgram flu shot for the swine flu. So not only that year did they get the seasonal flu vaccine, 25 micrograms of mercury, they got a swine flu vaccine. This has never been done before in history, yet they claim mercury's been removed, the autism rates keep going up, and there's no link.
So you could have a baby inside a mother who is injected with this, tries to protect the mother from the mercury, so then it would build up in its own system.
Well, it doesn't necessarily protect the mother. What happens is that mercury has a high affinity for that developing fetus, and published data shows, and previous historical tragedies have shown, 70% more mercury in the umbilical cord blood than in the blood of the pregnant mother. So we know there's a high affinity for that mercury to go right into that developing fetus. And past tragedies, Minamata Bay tragedy, where this whole village was basically eating mercury-contaminated fish, the biggest devastation was to the fetus. In fact, the pregnant mother who ate the fish themselves, they didn't show any symptoms because the fetus absorbed all that mercury.
Wow, that's astonishing. So you traveled all over the place to get stories. You talked to people, anyone who would talk to you, in doctors, people in the government, and tell us a little bit about that journey and maybe something that really surprised you.
I think the biggest thing was, because we interviewed for 3 years I just researched the science that they claimed ruled this connection out. And, the more I read that, the more I just couldn't sit still, and I ended up quitting my career over that because I just literally couldn't believe what I was seeing and all the conflicts of interest, all the fatal flaws. I mean, this is the most junk science you can imagine that they use all over the, news channels and say this link has been ruled out. So I started interviewing the government agencies, and a lot of them wouldn't go on camera, but I talked to them. And I was just flabbergasted by how little they knew. They didn't know the guideline for mercury exposure. They didn't know how much mercury were in these shots. They didn't know anything mercury could do to you. But they were so adamant that mercury does not cause autism without knowing anything. And then once we started...
Nicotine is not addictive.
Exactly. So once we started getting some of these documents that were acquired through the Freedom of Information Act, you can access government employee emails, closed-door transcript meetings, or meeting transcripts. And once we started getting a lot of these documents that showed they have known the cause of autism. They figured out the cause of autism in November of 1999, and then we have all their emails that show what they did once they figured this out.
So you're one of the few who was not shocked yesterday when Congressman Bill Posey came to the floor and gave a speech that for most people that's the first time they've heard anything like that, because the news media has told them the complete opposite.
Yeah. We've got a 17-year senior CDC scientist saying, and this is one of the guys who did 3 of the big studies that disprove a link. He comes out saying they manipulated the data. He was forced to manipulate the data to get rid of the relative risk or an elevated risk associated with autism and vaccines. And it's crickets. You don't hear anything on it in the mainstream media. This should be breaking news.
It was breaking news on our show yesterday.
Yeah, because of the consequences to our children, but nobody's talking about it. And it's unbelievable because Big Pharma has that much control over the mainstream media.
But when you think about it, the implications that a government in a state as big as California, we're talking almost 40 million people. I don't know how many of them are children, but let's say just roughly 10 million or 6 million or something like that, who are now being mandated, being forced to consume vaccines, many of whom might not have, and maybe they're not going to leave the state. They're not going to homeschool because it's not a reality. It's not possible for them. So they're being coerced and intimidated by the threat of having public education setting taken away into now taking a vaccine that could be deadly on the one hand, or it could have life-altering, debilitating side effects, such as what your research has revealed.
Absolutely. And, the biggest thing is these parents don't just, year after year, more and more parents are choosing not to vaccinate. They're not waking up one day saying, I'm just not going to vaccinate my kid because I want to be called anti-vaccine and crucified by all my friends and family. What they are doing is they're reading the research. They're hearing what Bill Thompson is saying as far as the corruption within the CDC. They're watching films like Trace Amounts and these other things that are coming out showing such an extensive level of corruption.
Well, your movie's sold out. None of the other movies here are sold out.
Right. Yeah, I mean, the people are perking up to there's something greater going on here. And once these parents see this information, you couldn't imagine trusting these government agencies and the people who have control of the safety of this vaccine program. So, we got to take a break, but I want to talk more, and I want to talk about how people can get your movie when we come back. If you've been listening long to the Tim Donnelly Show, you know that we talk constantly about defending freedom and about defending our natural inalienable rights. The Firearms Policy Coalition is a partner of the Tim Donnelly Show. But more than that, they're on the front lines every day in Sacramento and all across the state, in the courts, defending your Second Amendment right. That is a natural right that the government merely acknowledged in the Second Amendment. If you value your freedom, then you need to join Firearms Policy Coalition. Become a member. I'm a member, and I'm happy to support an organization that is doing such an incredible job. Go to joinfpc.org. The Tim Donnelly Show sent you. Or go to timdonnellyshow.com and click on the FPC link to make it easy. But whatever you do, join today. FPC.org.
You are tuned to the Radio Free California Network, and I am your host, former California State Assemblyman and gubernatorial candidate. And we are in the lobby of a movie theater. This is the second live remote for the Tim Donnelly Show, and we're joined, as you know, by Eric Gladden, producer, director of Trace Amounts, which is a sold-out screening here. And we're also joined, we've been talking to Brittany Cara, who is the author of The Silent Scandal, and you definitely need to get your hands on that. I just got my signed copy, and Eric just grabbed it, but I'm going home with that, Eric, so don't get any ideas. And we also have Dr. Shannon Kroner, who is heading up the referendum in Los Angeles County. Now, if there was ever a county that could be a country, it's Los Angeles. Shannon, welcome to the show.
Hello.
Now, I was starting to ask a question, Eric, about how could people get their hands on your movie, and then I heard you guys discussing what it took to get a screening. How does that work? Because I know there's probably a lot of people who are working right now to overturn SB 277. They want to make their communities aware. There's one going on August 6th in Orange County, and you guys can find that on Facebook. It's on my event pages. So, Shannon, I know you were the force of nature behind this. So tell us about it.
So there's a website called Gather, G-A-T-H-R, and through that I was able to host a Trace Amounts screening. This is actually the second screening that Brittany and I are doing. The first one was about a month and a half ago in Calabasas. And if you go on Gather, then you search for the movie Trace Amounts, and they give an option of host your own screening. And then they give you like a map of the movie theaters that are in the location that you want. And you pick one of those movie theaters, and then what you have to do is, once it's confirmed, you have to sell a certain number of tickets, which is probably about half of the theater. And once you get those sold, then the movie is confirmed, and then you have to kind of do your work to get the rest of the tickets sold. Wow.
And this thing has been sold out, and then you increase the number of tickets that were available, and it's sold out again and again.
This screening, because we have this special Q&A going on after the screening, has actually been sold out 3 times, and I keep having to I've had to contact the manager several times to increase the size of the theater that we're in. So now it's sold out. We've sold about 200 seats, and I'm still getting requests for more tickets.
Wow. And by the way, we are in the lobby of the Movica 14 Theater. I just want to do a little commercial for it, because they were kind enough to let us broadcast live from here. They helped us out, set us up, largely due to Shannon's request and everything. But look, it's been great. They've been great hosts. Eric, talk to us about, is that the only way you can see this movie? Can you buy it on DVD? How do people find this information? Because I think there's going to be a renewed hunger, especially after Congressman Bill Posey's comments on C-SPAN yesterday on the floor of the House.
Yeah, the primary way to see it right now is at www.traceamounts.com. You can rent it, you can download it, you can buy DVDs, you can go to Amazon and get digital downloads. And soon it's going to be available on other, it'll probably end up on Netflix, it'll be available on iTunes and all that kind of stuff. We don't know when yet. We're kind of building a strategy around that, but soon it'll be available in all the normal, typical places people watch films.
So give me some sense of something that really surprised you, because obviously you went in to make a movie, you didn't have all the answers, but you had a lot of questions.
Yeah, I think my biggest surprise was, the science I already knew before going out and exploring and talking to scientists and basically traveling the country for months. But it was the secret documents. It was the documents that, that were obtained. Safe Minds and Brian Hooker, some of these scientists and organizations who have tried for years now to get all these emails and so forth from the CDC through the Freedom of Information Act. And once you see, I feel like these government organizations, once they identify a problem that could severely affect the health of children, they would take the steps to correct it immediately and solve the problem and protect the children. In this case, they figured it out, and we have all their emails that show they absolutely went down the route of protecting their financial and liability than protecting the children. And I think at a certain point it went from gross negligence. They just didn't know what they were doing. They never added up the math when they added all these vaccines with mercury. Once they did the math and did the initial study that found thimerosal was causing autism, it changed from it changed to a crime against humanity. And it's probably one of the biggest crimes against humanity ever because of the consequences. Millions and millions of children, not only in this country, but around the globe. And, vaccines given to developing nations, the mercury's never been even reduced given to these children. So,
Wow.
Nigeria just came out and reported 380,000 cases of autism and said it's the fastest growing neurodevelopmental disorder in the country.
Oh,
well,
you're kidding.
They're getting all our thimerosal-loaded vaccines because we don't want to put the money or effort and time into changing the manufacturing process and the cold chain to give them thimerosal-free vaccines.
Of course, why would we change the manufacturing process when nobody can ever sue the manufacturer?
Exactly.
See, this is the part I've been trying to explain to people, because I think a lot of people, when they hear that, they go, oh my God. If my child died from a vaccine, I'd want a $150 million judgment, because I don't want it to happen to anyone else, and I want to force them to change the chemistry so that nobody else has to go through what I just went through. It's $250,000 for a dead kid, and it's paid by the government, who shields the manufacturers. But that was a point that Congressman Bill Posey made. He said, I'm pro-vaccine. But I'm really disturbed by the fact that the government's paid out over $3 billion, that's billion with a B, in damages for injured and dead kids from vaccinations.
And exactly, and it's us, it's the taxpayers who are funding these damages. So in 1986, yes, Congress stepped in and removed all liability from these pharmaceutical companies. So if any child gets harmed by their product that they're profiting billions of dollars off, they don't have to pay a cent. And literally, we pay a surcharge on getting these vaccines.
It's a great business model. You get the government to protect you and inoculate you from lawsuits, and the government forces everybody to buy your product.
Yeah, it's
a win-win.
It's unheard of. It's unheard of. And what it does is, ever since 1986, we've had zero incentive to make these vaccines safer. Nobody needs to make these safer because there's no reason to.
In a free market, money and the threat of either being sued or financial loss is what would motivate you.
Absolutely. And then also, to add to that, there's no incentive to identify the susceptible population.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole reason we have a vaccine injury compensation program is because we know vaccines can brain damage and kill a susceptible group of children. Well, there's no time, money, or effort spent on identifying what that susceptibility is because we have no need to identify it. We're just willing, they're kind of the sacrificial lambs, and so again, Big Pharma can profit billions of dollars with zero liability of their product, and now they're trying to force these parents who have legitimate concerns to buy, not give them and take for free, but forcing them to buy these products that these pharmaceutical companies are profiting
And
billions
this
on.
for the trace elements?
Wow, this is crazy. Shannon, tell me, how did you get involved in this? What is your connection?
So, I've actually been an educational therapist. I've worked with kids with special needs for over 15 years. I started out as a behaviorist and then went into educational therapy. And through that period of time, I have met so many families with children who have autism or other disabilities. And I've heard the stories from parents about vaccine injuries. And I've even seen, the first child I ever worked with autism, the parent showed me a before and after video of their child. So that before, it was on their first birthday, that child had speech and eye contact. And then by the second birthday, after a series of vaccines, had lost all speech, all eye contact. And, the parent was very convincing that was a vaccine injury. So I started doing a lot of research, and through all of that, I've become very motivated to educate people on what's in vaccines. And then when SB 277 came out, I knew it was just like a calling that I had where I had to get involved. And then the Trace Amounts movie came out, and I knew I had to jump on board with that. So that's how.
You really are a community organizer, I gotta say. I have never seen anyone organize so fast or so effectively, and we're really grateful for you here in Los Angeles County, because nobody in their right mind would want to try to organize the whole county. But she put up like it wasn't a map, but it was like a spreadsheet, and it was neighborhood after neighborhood after neighborhood, and she put in red the targets that she was going to get to do the work. And I was like, I love this woman. Anyway, hey, we are here in the lobby of the Movica 14 Theaters in Thousand Oaks. We're not far from the opening of the Trace Amounts screening that's going to take place here today, but we are going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back for a final segment. Tim Donnelly Show. Don't go anywhere. Defending the fundamental freedom of parents to make informed decisions for their own children is a basic human right that should never be infringed. But it was. California's SB 277 denies children access to education and takes away a parent's right to choose. You don't have to be a parent to help, but only you can make a difference. Let's exercise the people's veto and overturn SB 277. To volunteer or donate, go to SB277referendum.com. That's SB277referendum.com. Do it now. Paid for by SB 277 Referendum Committee, FPPC ID number 1378398.
Last segment. Guys, we're going live.
Welcome back to the Radio Free California Network. We are live. We're on a live remote in the lobby of a movie theater. Here we are, Thousand Oaks Movica 14 Theater. And we've just been joined by the other director of Trace Amounts, Shiloh Levine. Shiloh, welcome to the Tim Donnelly Show.
Hi, Tim. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, this is cool, huh? Being in the lobby of the theater. Doing live radio.
Really cool. We haven't done it this way yet.
There you go. Now, you were starting to tell us some of the story of the shooting of the movie and the journey. Mm-hmm. Eric never said anything about an RV. So you guys were cruising the country in an RV, and you had to drive it.
Well,
for a period of time.
We cruised the country 2 times. One when we were filming in 2008 for about a 3-month tour around the United States, a 39-foot RV. And I think the first time I had to get behind the wheel of that thing, yeah, basically, my hands were sweating so bad, I thought they were just going to slide right off the steering wheel. I was so nervous. And then we did the same thing this year when we were promoting the film around the country, and it was like I had never driven it before. And the first night, Eric's like, you got to drive. It's nighttime. It was raining. I got behind that wheel. I was pretty nervous again, sweaty palms and the whole thing. And
you came down a hill in Philadelphia and literally had to back the thing up because you were going to hit a bridge you couldn't go through.
Yeah, at this point, Eric had to, he had to leave and help out with the mandates that were happening around the country and meet up with Bobby Kennedy. So I was kind of alone with the interns for 2 weeks driving that thing along the East Coast.
And none of them wanted to drive?
Well, I guess I'm letting the cat out of the bag. One of them wasn't a very good driver.
Uh-oh.
So it made me nervous. Not that I'm the best driver in the world, but he made me really nervous. So I pretty much drove, and the other girl, she never got a chance to learn. So, but yeah, we came down this hill in Philadelphia. There's lots of bridges, and there was this tunnel, and it was very clear when I got to the end of the hill that we were not going to make it. I was going to rip off the roof. This guy came out of his house, like, waving his hands, like, don't do it. Many people have ruined their vehicles. So he kind of helped me, with hand signals to back up the hill, but then also I had to go around a turn into a muddy dirt driveway. So it was a little nerve-wracking.
Fun and games.
Yeah.
So what in the world possessed you to get involved in making a movie like this? I mean,
how did that start, right?
Yeah.
So in 2008, I'm a filmmaker, and I went to film school, and I came to LA to work in film. But at some point, I found myself teaching, substitute teaching, and then also ended up with an autism class for a year. And I started to look at reading articles about mercury and amalgams and the connection to autism. And I really wanted to get back in film, and Eric had put out an ad that he needed someone to help him. He was an engineer, and this was his first, jumping into film.
Sure.
So when I met him and he started to tell me about mercury and vaccines, it didn't take a lot of convincing. One, I was shocked that mercury was in vaccines. And 2, I knew that something needed to be done about it. It was pretty immediate. We talked for about an hour, and then we started filming the next week. For me, I don't know. I didn't have to think about it. I guess I just went on gut instinct that I needed to be involved. And working with children with autism, if I could prevent something like that or be involved in preventing something, I definitely wanted to be involved.
Wow. I mean, it's an extraordinary story because, as you said, it is shocking that mercury is in vaccines. We're told we can't even have mercury in light bulbs.
Right.
Remember, that was their big deal. You got to get rid of the light bulbs, and yet you're going to inject something into a newborn?
Right. I mean, imagine if you drop a thermometer, say a school nurse drops a thermometer with mercury in it, they're going to have to call in hazmat to clean that up.
Good point.
But we can inject that same substance into a newborn or a pregnant mother. It's kind of mind-blowing. It just doesn't make sense.
Well, I have not yet seen trace amounts. I've heard rave reviews. I'm going to see it for the first time today. And I want to thank you for coming on. I want to thank you for making the film, because I do think this is the beginning of a change that is going to take hold in our country. And we're going to protect the next generation and whoever is currently on the firing line to receive vaccines, mandated or otherwise. But it certainly will. I believe your film will help push back against laws and bills like SB 277 that mandate something that could basically poison you and could harm you, debilitate you, alter your life for good. Well, we're out of time here, so thank you for coming on. I have to say that I don't do this show by myself. I want to thank my wife, who lets me. I want to thank Bethany Nosko the Noskinator for being an extraordinary producer and combat warrior. Battleground preparations today. And Sean McNeil, who's back there in the studio making us sound good. Thank you. Cassie Cassidy, our intrepid guest booker, all of our sponsors, and of course you, because without you, it wouldn't be a show. And we're on every weekday, 3 to 6 p.m. God bless you and Godspeed. From live in the lobby of the Movica 14 movie theater, we are going to sign off and say goodbye. God bless you and Godspeed. Tim Donnelly Show out. Hey, if you like shooting as much as I do, you've probably been to a lot of ranges. Unless you visited Burro Canyon Shooting Park, you've never seen anything like it. On the way there, you'll find yourself taking pictures as you traverse the majestic Azusa Canyon and wind your way up into the Angeles National Forest. With over 600 acres, including 19 private ranges, there's something for everyone. There's rifle and pistol ranges for beginners, right up to advanced shooters. And there's plenty of spaces to shoot sporting clay. You can make a family day of it, or you can bring a group for team building exercises. Bring a picnic lunch. On the weekends, they provide lunch. And don't worry, they always have ammo in case you forget yours or run out. One thing I can guarantee is that once you visited my friends at Burro Canyon Shooting Park, you'll be hooked and you'll keep coming back. BurroCanyon.com is their website, or call them at 626-910-1344, 626-910-1344.